All right, we are kicking off our Pardot series with the very first Pardot expert video right here, right now. We're gonna talk about turning on Pardot for the very first time. So your license got activated, you got that email from your Salesforce rep, you click the link, logged into Pardot for the first time, and what do you do now? Well, we're gonna give you the top 3 things you should do to set up Pardot, get it functioning correctly, and start sending emails out to all of your prospects. And one last big thing you need to do that's so big, it's gonna require its own video. You're gonna wanna get on the phone with or file a ticket with the IT department at your company or your web developer. Whoever controls your website would have access to things like your DNS records, DKIM records, and plenty of other acronyms that I'm gonna have to say way too many times before this video is over. So once you've gotten in touch with your IT department or web developer, tell them you'll buy them a cup of coffee, sit down with them, and walk through these next 3 steps. Or better yet, just include the link to this video in the ticket to them. Have them follow these 3 steps while you go get a coffee yourself. All right, here's the 3 steps you need to follow for setting up Pardot for the very first time. So the first step in getting Pardot functioning for the very first time is email authentication. You have to tell Pardot that you are authenticated and allowed to send on behalf of your email domain. So your goal here is to find your domain management screen in Pardot and add your domain under email sending domains. Then you're going to ask your web developer to add some DNS entries for SPF, domain key policy, and domain key. They're all typed TXT entries and their values are located on this page in Pardot. And once your developer has done this, you can go ahead and click Check DNS Entries in Pardot and have Pardot verify that you're ready to go. Keep in mind that it might take up to 24 hours for the DNS entries to propagate, and if you want to send emails from more than one domain in Pardot, you're going to have to add and verify each domain on this screen. Number 2. Configure your tracker domain. Essentially, this is the domain that's going to appear whenever someone clicks on a link that you're tracking in Pardot or tries to download a file that you have hosted on the Pardot platform. Now your tracker domain is going to be a subdomain of whatever domain you choose. It's going to have a prefix in front of it, such as info.mycompanydomain.com or go.mycompanydomain.com. Typically, I like the acronym GO. It's proactive, it involves getting up and moving, it'll help people trust that they're downloading marketing content. It's also incredibly short and helps when you need to post those links on Twitter or other social media places where space is a premium. Again, we'll return to the domain management screen, and this time we'll add an entry under the tracker domains table. Once we've added our domain, we want to click the Tools dropdown and download the validation file. Then ask your web developer to do 2 things. First, add a CNAME record to your website's DNS for the tracker domain you chose, and upload the validation file to the root domain of your website. Once these 2 steps have been taken, you should see your tracker domain has been validated in Pardot. And just like our email step, this validation could take up to 24 hours. Again, consult your IT department or your web developer on following the directions laid out in the Salesforce help article. You're going to add a CNAME record to the DNS for your main domain. That CNAME record should point to whatever subdomain you want to use for your tracker domain. See what I meant about acronyms and way too many to say? Okay, number 3. Configure your website tracking code. So obviously a huge piece of Pardot is the fact that it can interface with your website, know when your prospects visit your website, and perform actions on prospect records if they go to or view certain content on your website. That's all accomplished with a simple JavaScript tracking code that you add to your website from your website tracking campaign. To do this, you're going to go to your campaigns in Pardot. You're going to have a default one set up called website tracking. Just go into that campaign, click View Tracking Code on the top right-hand side, copy and paste this code. Again, get with your IT department or your web developer and make sure this code appears on every page of your site. It's just like a Google Analytics tracking code. It needs to appear on every single page of the site where you'd want Pardot to have information if a prospect visited that site. And there you go. Those are the top 3 tips for setting up Pardot. Now, like I said at the top of the video, channeling my inner Steve Jobs, there is one more thing.
But there is one more thing
that you're going to need to do if you want to get Pardot functioning correctly. And that's connect your Pardot instance to your Salesforce instance so data can travel back and forth. It does no good for someone to fill out a lead capture form if their data is not eventually passed into Salesforce for reps to follow them up. But the Salesforce connector is a little more complex and has so many features, we've actually made a separate video about it. You can find the link to that video in the description below this video. So was this video helpful for setting up Pardot for your first time? Did you find it confusing? Did you get stuck anywhere? Let us know in the comments. Feel free to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and may the Salesforce be with you.